The French government is moving forward with a decision to ban students from wearing the style of dress called an abaya in public schools. And it's drawn debate over where the line is between culture, fashion, and religion. An abaya is a type of loose, full-length robe chosen by some Muslim women. France already had a ban on children wearing religious symbols in public schools to uphold its strict brand of secularism, known as laïcité. But it's struggled to update guidelines as its Muslim population grows. In 2004, France banned headscarves from schools. The latest move on abayas was met with applause from the country's right, but some academics warn it could be counterproductive, especially as it touches on clothing they say is worn for fashion or identity rather than religion. This is French sociologist Agnès de Feo.
I think the government's goal is to start a new controversy that will outrage the entire French society. And that's really a shame, since people are not fully aware of the problem, but they will want to negatively view these young women. Although the abaya is an adolescent form of expression that has no consequence. Most of all, it will hurt Muslims in general. They will once again feel stigmatized because of their religious beliefs, and that's dangerous.
France's ban on religious symbols in schools has both supporters and critics across the political spectrum and is a sensitive subject. Some say that to differentiate between fashion and religion could lead to pupils being profiled based on their identity. De Jeanette is studying to be a teacher, so she wasn't comfortable with giving Reuters her last name. But she says she wears the dress at home and doesn't understand why it was banned.
It has no distinct religious symbol. I think the abaya has no religious symbol. It's just like wearing a dress, but that dress has a name. It's like wearing a flower-printed dress. I wouldn't tell you, you're wearing that dress, you can't be here. It's just like any other clothing.
Authorities are expecting backlash, but when it comes to the response we've seen so far, there hasn't been a response from the parents. That's because schools start next Monday. So the only response we have so far is a political response, and we have obviously the right and the far right in France who are saying finally that this is happening, but we have voices from the left who are saying that once again France is policing what women will wear. We had the French government spokesperson who said that abayas are a political attack on the country's secular values. So clearly the government thinks it's doing the right thing by upholding secular values, because one must remember that France's separation of church and state actually came to being in 1905, when the country's religious makeup, was vastly different than what it is today and what it was in 2004. And as you know, fashion trends tend to change. So in 2004, when headscarves and kippas and crosses were banned, abayas weren't really in existence. They started in the Middle East around the mid 90s, but by the time it came to Europe, it took a while. So that's why we don't have a reaction from the public just yet, but I'm quite certain we're going to get one. So I think what the government says it's trying to do is keep everyone's religion at the door of one school, which is the case right now. If a girl is walking into a school who has a headscarf, she takes off the headscarf before entering the premises of the school, not only the classroom, but the actual school gate itself. That's what they want to see. But according to the government, there has been an increase in the number of people wearing abayas, in the number of women wearing abayas. And they say they're not just wearing abayas because they like loose clothes, but they're wearing abayas to identify as Muslim. Well, I've spoken to a couple of parents. I don't have kids myself, but I've spoken to parents whose children go to the public school system, and they tell me that there's so many problems with the public school system, whether it's the lack of substitute teachers, whether it's problems with the canteen. And this is an education minister that has been in the job for barely a month. He's 34 years old. He's one of the youngest education ministers France has seen. And one of the biggest, boldest decisions he makes within his first term in office, just before the new academic year begins, is to go after Abayas, which a lot of parents don't really see the point of, because there are bigger fish to fry when it comes to fixing France's public education system. So obviously, this is going to score. This is also a political decision that the government is making here, taking here with this move. So clearly, although the government wants to see everyone's religion, quote unquote, being left at the door, there's a move, there's a view by the government that these articles of clothing, these garments, are being used as a political attack. This is what the French government spokesperson Olivier Véran had to say. But that is going to be very difficult for school authorities once this ban actually goes into effect next Monday, because if you have two uh, women wearing the same long flowing baggy garment, and one is Muslim and one isn't, what is an abaya? Who is wearing the abaya? So that is something that school authorities are going to have to take into account. And I'm sure that a lot of girls are going to you know push the envelope on this, because at the end of the day, you're policing what a woman wears once again in France. So it's not going to go down well, I don't think. I don't think he wants to brandish. He doesn't. I don't think the government thinks that this is an anti-Muslim policy, even though it does obviously target the Muslim minority. Clearly, we have 5 million Muslims in France who do feel marginalized. Yes, Samuel Paty's beheading clearly put a lot of issues with the public education system into the spotlight. But we also had recently, in the past few months, the killing of a 17-year-old teenager by a police officer, which sparked riots on the street. Once again, brought up issues of migration, integration, things that France has had to grapple with over the past over decades, really. And again, nothing ever really gets resolved. So we'll have to wait and see on how this decision to once again single out Muslims, this time with Muslim women, gets digested by the French public. Obviously, we're going to have elements on the right and the far right who are going to celebrate this move. But again, we have elements on the left who are saying, once again, we're policing women, we're going to be unnecessary clothes police, and there are other more pressing priorities within the public education system that the government needs to focus on, which it's choosing not to.